He wasn't just a drug lord. He was a visionary in the darkest sense. Pablo Escobar didn't stumble into billions. He built it. Piece by piece, plane by plane, bribe by bribe. By the early 1990s, Escobar was smuggling up to 15 tons of cocaine into the United States every single day. He was so rich, his cartel spent $2,500 a month just on rubber bands to wrap cash. So powerful, he offered to pay off Colombia's national debt just to avoid extradition. But how did one man, with no corporate backing, no boardroom, no degrees, create a criminal empire so efficient it rivaled Fortune 500 companies? The answer lies in how Escobar thought, not like a gangster, but like a CEO of chaos. This is the real story of how Pablo Escobar built a billion-dollar empire, and how it all came crashing down under the weight of greed, fear, and the very machine he created. Born in 1949 in a small town near Medellín, Colombia, Pablo Escobar wasn't born into wealth or status. He started his life as a hustler, stealing cars, forging diplomas, smuggling electronics, and dealing weed. But the real game changer came in the late 1970s. Cocaine. At the time, cocaine wasn't yet the global plague it would become. But Escobar saw the future. He recognized the gap between Colombian supply and American demand. And more importantly, he saw how to fill it. Escobar didn't want to be part of the drug trade. He wanted to own the pipeline. Escobar's genius was structure. He treated his cartel not as a gang, but as an international logistics company. He built teams the way CEOs build departments. Production, massive jungle labs run like pharmaceutical factories. Distribution, pilots, truck drivers, boat captains, tunnel builders. Security, thousands of armed guards, assassins, and bodyguards on payroll. Finance, a web of accountants, lawyers, and frontmen to move billions of dollars cleanly. PR, he had priests, radio stations, and newspapers on his side. His Medellín Cartel grew to command up to 80% of the global cocaine market. At its peak, Escobar was worth an estimated $30 billion, making him one of the richest people on earth. And it wasn't by accident. It was calculated, ruthless business strategy. Escobar's supply chain was nothing short of military grade. He owned hundreds of smuggling routes, from airstrips in the Amazon to secret compartments in commercial jets. He used submarines, speedboats, and even mules to get his product north. He once spent millions digging a half-mile tunnel under the U.S.-Mexico border, long before El Chapo made it famous. Every failure taught him something. When planes were intercepted, he switched to remote-controlled submarines. When ports cracked down, he built hidden compartments inside concrete shipments. He even hid cocaine in plastic dolls, coffins, car tires, and exported oranges. His innovation in smuggling outpaced law enforcement at every step. Escobar didn't fear obstacles. He adapted faster than they could catch up. What do you do when you make millions every day and the banks won't take your money? You build your own bank. Escobar mastered the art of money laundering before the world even had a term for it. He funneled money into legitimate businesses like construction, taxis, and soccer teams. He bought properties across South America, often paying in full, in cash. He stashed hundreds of millions in fields and warehouses, knowing that rats would eat about 10% of it annually. And he still didn't care. According to his bookkeepers, Escobar lost over $2 billion a year just in spoiled, burned, or lost cash. And it didn't matter, because more was coming in. He also used offshore shell companies, Swiss bank accounts, and fake charities. He didn't just hide the money. He made it look cleaner than most politicians' finances. To the outside world, Escobar was a monster. But to the poor in Medellín, he was a savior. Escobar funded schools, clinics, housing projects, churches, and even soccer tournaments. He built entire neighborhoods for the homeless, earning him the nickname El Patrón del Pueblo, the people's boss. But let's be clear, this wasn't generosity. It was strategic influence. Escobar understood that power comes not only from fear, but from love. The poor protected him, worshipped him, and in many cases, died for him. When the Colombian government came looking for him, entire neighborhoods formed human shields. This was not just drug money at work. It was brand building at its deadliest. But Escobar also ruled with absolute terror. His infamous phrase, plata o plomo, silver or lead, meant you could take the bribe or take a bullet. He assassinated presidential candidates, police chiefs, and journalists. He bombed airliners and targeted government buildings. In 1989, he planted a bomb on Avianca Flight 203, killing 107 people, just to kill one man. He once placed a bounty on every cop in Medellín, $300 for a dead officer. The city descended into war. Escobar wasn't just fighting for survival. He was waging psychological warfare. He proved that violence could be an economic tool, just like marketing or distribution. It was all part of the business. Escobar didn't fight the system. He bought it. He had judges, generals, and congressmen on payroll. He was even elected to the Colombian Congress in 1982, giving him political immunity. He used charity to mask his corruption. And when that didn't work, he used bullets. This dual strategy of fear and favor worked for a while. But as his power grew, so did his visibility. And that would prove to be his fatal flaw. In 1991, under intense U.S. pressure, Escobar cut a deal with the Colombian government. He agreed to surrender, but only if he could build his own prison. And they said yes. That prison became known as La Catedral. But it wasn't a prison. It was a luxury resort. It had a bar, a waterfall, a disco, a gym, and a soccer field. Escobar threw parties, held meetings, and even continued running his cartel from inside. But after he murdered 2 of his own men inside La Catedral, the Colombian government tried to move him. He escaped before they arrived, and the real manhunt began. For 16 months, Escobar evaded capture, but he wasn't the same man anymore. His cartel was splintering. His enemies were closing in. A vigilante group known as Los Peeps, made up of rival cartels, ex-police, and reportedly CIA assets, began targeting everyone close to him. They tortured his family, killed his associates, and burned his safe houses to the ground. The DEA and Colombian forces were tapping his calls, tracking his every move. Escobar grew paranoid. He jumped between safe houses, hiding in sewers and farms. He trusted no one. And then, on December 2nd, 1993, his luck ran out. Authorities tracked a phone call he made to his son. They surrounded him in a middle-class Medellín neighborhood. And after a short shootout on a rooftop, Escobar was dead, shot in the leg, the torso, and finally the head. Some believe he shot himself to avoid capture. Others say he was executed by Colombian police. The king of cocaine was gone. So what did Pablo Escobar actually create? Was it just a drug empire? Or something much more sinister? He built a fully functioning shadow state, complete with infrastructure, loyalty, finance, and political power. He created a model where crime became more organized than government. But that same structure was also his weakness, because the more you build, the harder it is to control. Escobar's fall wasn't a single gunshot. It was the collapse of a business model that outgrew its master. As his empire expanded, it became more vulnerable to betrayal, surveillance, and internal decay. His most loyal men flipped. His enemies grew stronger, and the U.S. turned him into public enemy number 1. What's most disturbing is that his blueprint still lives on. Modern drug cartels in Mexico, Brazil, even Europe are using his playbook. They've learned from Escobar's successes and from his mistakes. His life is now glamorized in shows, music, and culture. But behind the Netflix sheen lies a story of absolute destruction. Tens of thousands of deaths, generations of trauma, and a nation that's still healing from the war he helped create. Pablo Escobar didn't just sell drugs. He weaponized business. He didn't just corrupt a country. He built a system so effective, even governments studied it. But in the end, he died like many tyrants do, alone, hunted, and forgotten by the very machine he once controlled. That's the truth behind Escobar's empire. Not a legend, not a hero, just a man who built a billion-dollar business on blood and lost it all.